What's up, folks? I'm your host, Conrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews, and tonight we're joined by Nick Friesen. Nick, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Conrad.
Absolutely happy to have you. Uh, as many of the folks out there won't know, it was great to run into you at TCAF,
Yeah.
at which time you handed me all of these lovely books, which, now that I'm thinking about it, Nick, actually, I have but a bone to pick with you.
Oh,
You gave me all
please.
your books that you wrote, you drew, color, all that stuff. You did everything that made this happen, at least this part of the experience.
Mhm.
But you didn't sign them.
Oh.
So next time you're in our neck of the woods, or maybe I'm out that way, I will bring them to you and you can sign them for me.
Well, there's 5 more issues coming after that, buddy. So
Yes.
I'll sign all those for you, and if I don't see you in person, I'll drop them in the mail for you for sure.
I would love that.
Well, you never
Uh,
want to like presume that someone wants it signed, right? Like I've had a few people ask,
oh,
like, can you sign it? So yeah.
you, it's funny you say that because when I went to TCAF last year, um, I ran into the folks making Side Quest.
Mm.
Grant is the guy's first name. And I bought his books and I was like, yeah, I'd love to support you. I'd love to read it, maybe have you on the show. And I bought his books and he handed them to me. And I looked at them and I go, oh, sign that. And he's like, you want me to sign it? And I was like, yeah, you made it. It's yours.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's something, I guess, I don't know. I don't think, maybe because I'm not like I'm not in this for the money. I'm not trying to trade and make big
Mhm.
bank off of old comics or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Like something about having a signature on the book that the guy made or the person made is like, yes.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I saw you because I was waiting in line to get an autograph from Chester Brown on
Oh,
uh,
cool.
on issue 1 of Yummy Fur, and a lot of people were bringing up graphic novels and stuff for him to sign. And I'm from Winnipeg, and I flew into Toronto for TCAF, and I was tabling, and I said, "Oh man, Chester Brown is here. I'm like a fan since the '90s," and I was like, "I've got to get this copy of Yummy Fur signed," and I bring it up to him, and he goes, oh my gosh, this is like a sacred document. This is in such nice shape. I don't want to tarnish it with a, and he's like, oh, I don't have a Sharpie, so I'm going to have to be very careful about how he just had like ink brushes and like a couple of fine liners, eh? And
Yeah.
it was like, so he's like, he does the C and he's like, okay, it's not bleeding, it's not running. And then he proceeds to do
Oh.
Chester Brown. And then it was like, there was like a little bit, he's like, oh, there must be a thumbnail smudge here because like a little bit of the ink bubbled a bit. And so then he takes out a fine liner and he's like adjusting, on the
Wow.
end or whatever. And he's like, okay, now don't put this back into the bag yet. And I left it out on my table for about 4 hours while it dried. And so yeah,
Nice.
I mean, like if you if you're a fan like you or I, and like I see you've got some slabs on the wall there, but I know that you're also like you like to read the actual physical
Oh,
books and stuff. And I'm no snob. Like however you want to do your collecting and your reading, like if you go online, if you get them in person, if you buy 2 copies, whatever, it doesn't matter.
no.
But I love to, like, whenever I'm like just like flipping through the flea market or a comic shop or at a show or whatever, it's just like I'm personally looking for reader editions. Like, I mean, unless
Yeah.
something is a beautiful thing that I'm like, oh, that's that's my grail or whatever, and I want to pick it up. Yeah, I'm just gonna like, yeah, I'll take the $15 copy over the $400 copy any
Yes.
day, because I want to physically see it. And it's mostly if I'm like doing a run of books, like the New Mutants, 100 issues. You think I'm going to pay however many thousand for the first appearance of Deadpool? No, I'm going to buy a reprint copy, and I'm going to throw it in the box, and I'll read it when I get to that issue.
Hell yes. No, see, I love that. We'll get to your proper interview in just a second, I promise. And for the folks out there, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we're
But
live. Anything can happen.
yes, exactly. But actually, on that note, on like collecting and how different people like to do it, um, first and foremost, there's no wrong way to collect comics and
No.
enjoy comics. But I will say, for me personally, I've got a reprint of Batman 608, which is the start of Hush.
Mm-hmm.
I've got there is the Dark Knight Returns
Yes,
#1.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and here is it's a Mirka Andolfo cover for um, the Title is totally blanking. Unnatural. No,
Oh,
not
cool.
unnatural. It's what book are you? Unsacred. That's it. Where
Okay.
she's drawn on it and signed it and stuff. Um, I have reading copies of all those. Like in my shelf here, I think I've got 3 versions of Dark Knight. I've
Yeah.
got the Hush book. So like for me, that's where that comes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, like all the stuff on the wall, the army of comics beside me that you cannot see.
Yeah.
It's all very much reading copies. And I think for me, if I like something enough to get it signed and to want to protect it, maybe encapsulate it, maybe put it on a wall, maybe rebag it every 7 years like you're supposed
Yeah.
to, which is not something I knew you're supposed to until recently. I go out and I buy the graphic novel so I can have I read it once, the dude or people signed it, seal it, put it
Yep.
away, grab the book, I can read it again. But that's my little spiel on Conrad's school of reading and enjoying comics.
And we're all such like, you look behind me, I've got all these action figures. Like this is my
So
action
cool.
figure room. I've got my drawing table over there with like a couple of the fave books up on the wall, like an optic nerve one signed by Tomina, you know, a couple of those X books, like yeah, just like and I kind of alternate those, like some of just my favorites, right? Like with some like, okay, those are my like, you know, those are the books that matter to me the most type of thing. But and sometimes I just like the cover. Like there's a Batgirl book up there. I just like the cover of it. You know, it's like a $5 book or whatever, but I just dig the art. So I put it up there next to Ninja Turtles number 4 or whatever, and it's all good. But yeah, I'm just like I want the thing. I want the thing in my collection, and I'll display it however I want, and I'll move it around, and I'll play with it, and I'll take photos, and just like there's. I love that we live in a world where we can just like, it's just like totally common and normal to be like, here's my stuff. I like my stuff.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. But on that note, Nick, let's talk about your stuff.
Sure.
So just to start with, for the folks out there in YouTube land tuning in, who've maybe never seen your face, never heard your name, or never seen what Olivia Sea is, could you please start by letting us know who is Nick Friesen?
Well, most of you don't know me probably. I mean, I'm from Winnipeg, and I am I'd say for my entire life I've been an illustrator, an artist, a writer in various capacities. Whether it's I went to film school, I worked in film and journalism, and now I work in marketing for the day job. So I've kind of seen all sides of it. At the end of the day, I do refer to myself as a storyteller and an organized creative, which you don't always, that's the combination that doesn't always come together, right? So I like to tell my stories, and I've always been drawing. In the last few years, I've actually been doing hand-drawn animation for music videos and things like that for a lot of artists, the Sorels, Sierra Noble, a bunch of people. And so I've been dabbling in a lot of different worlds, and it's only been in the last year or so, like, well, I guess over the, with lockdown and everything. And I was working on I guess if we'll dive into, the origin of Olivia Sea, if that's cool. Because the origin of Olivia Sea was about 10 years ago as like just a character that I was I drew her with, the red hair and the bangs and the gray t-shirt. And I was putting her onto other people's posters for their bands and stuff. Like I've played in bands for years.
Okay.
And so she was just this character. And then the other character that started appearing on posters was her little robot, 4-Track, who's kind of her sidekick, her partner in crime. She uses him for recording. There he is. Yeah, he's the mobile recording unit from the 80s. Cool. He's got a little like cassette tape chest, so and I put him on I had to do a poster for an acoustic show, and it was like, okay, well, what's like cute? Okay, how about a little robot playing an acoustic guitar, because he's intimidated by other electronic things. So he won't play electric, he'll play acoustic. And so that kind of carries over into the story with Olivia, and how he doesn't like it when Olivia plays electric. He prefers that she plays acoustic. He doesn't even, well, and I'm also gendering him, which is a running gag in the book later on, which is don't gender my robot. But yeah, so Olivia Sea started appearing on these posters, and then I had a band called Future Kids about 10 years ago, and I wrote a song called Olivia Sea, and the chorus was you see color, but you don't see me. And it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm coming up with a character and blah blah blah. And then I got some recording equipment because I don't like to rely on other people, and I like to learn new skills. And so,
Hmm.
I'd go into a recording studio and I'd ask questions and blah blah blah. And so I bought some gear, and I asked my friend Andy Cole, who he's an incredible musician in his own right and a great songwriter. And he has a band called Great Wealth that, if you're a music fan, you should check them out. He had a band called Eagle Lake Owls for many years that put out some great stuff. But Andy and I sat down one afternoon and we just kind of like off the cuff, like changing instruments, like I'll play drums and you play guitar, and then I'll play the bass and you play the synth and blah, blah, blah. And we just had these 5 or 6 songs. And then Andy moved away for a year and the songs sat there and we kind of back and forth, like, what should we do with these songs? And I don't remember which of us said it, but one of us said, maybe they're Olivia Sea's songs. So we
Oh, that's
decided,
cool.
yeah, we decided to come up with this to bring the character to life, which then meant finding the right singer. And so I talked to a few different like Winnipeg singers, and I said, look, like, this is the project. It's kind of like, it'll be animated hand-drawn music videos. And I was like, like Gorillas or Gem and the Holograms or, Josie and the Pussycats, what have you.
Yeah.
So, and everyone was like, I don't know, like it might be confusing between my existing music project and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, well, because it's an animated component and there'll be some talking as well, maybe I'll hire an actress that can also sing. And then I
Oh.
remembered I had met this woman named Olivia Rain, coincidentally, Olivia.
Yep.
And I'd met her when I was running the film festival at the University of Winnipeg. And I just cold called her. I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but this is the project. Do you want to have coffee and talk about it? And it's one of those things where it's like, I like to work with someone that is like, yeah, there she is right there on the screen. Like someone that gets the idea and is also got the talent, and is open to improvise and come up with stuff. So yeah, there's Andy on the
Yeah.
guitar, and there's Matt Powers on the drums. So what you're seeing there is photos of like the first time that all those people met, because we made the first record, me and Andy did the music, and then Olivia came in and recorded the vocals. And then we're like, well, let's make some more songs and we'll make another record. The first record was called Purposeful Movements. And then we decided to make a second record called Artificial Landscape, Artificial Heart. And so, Andy and Olivia and Matt and we spent one weekend. We made that record there, which you can see has the X-Men Kitty Pryde homage cover on it. And that was
Yeah.
before I even had the idea to do it as a comic book, to be quite honest.
And how long ago was that?
That was, I think we've been making the music for about 5-6 years now.
Okay.
So yeah, and I think like we originally recorded the first instrumentals in like 2015 or 16. So it was like this kind of like slow going process. But then like with the songs, we sit down, like I might have a loose idea or a demoed something, but we're coming up with stuff on the spot. Like you surround yourself with very talented people that can improvise, and are comfortable working lo-fi. Like Matt Powers, the drummer, he has a band called Midnight Review Presents that is also
Nice.
very like in the vein. Like, so each record is kind of like, Midnight Review presents the Moonlighters and like different ideas and stuff. And he's
Oh,
also
that's
like
cool.
a crazy, DIY type of guy. Like the new record he put out came on cassette tape, and he had made these custom like kind of David Cronenberg-y type, like it
Ooh.
was like felt with like veins and stuff going in, and so you basically have to like crack the thing open and like destroy its packaging to actually listen to the record. So yeah, that's a whole other like can of worms. But yeah, so and then that was actually the only time we were all in the room together.
Oh, no way.
The last few sessions, there was like, we'd scheduled Remembrance Day because we'd all have the day off, but then there was a big snowstorm. And so only Andy showed up to record his parts. And so then we've been like doing things piecemeal. Like I, go to Matt's, Olivia comes over, blah, blah, blah. And we record that way, but I'm hoping to do the next batch of songs properly and in person. But how we get to the comic book is that, yeah, the unpredictable Olivia Sea. So I start working on this story, and it goes through a number of different incarnations. Like I would say in 2010, I wrote the first draft of like a screenplay, and then it became a short story, and then it became, a little, maybe it'll be a web series and it'll be animated and all these different things. And I had it written out as a script, and it was going to be like an 80-minute animated feature. And I started
Oh,
kind of
cool.
I started creating the assets for it. I mean, Olivia has voiced her part. Other
Oh.
people had voiced their parts for it. And then my wife says to me, it's going to take you a long time to animate a feature, because you've only done these like little 3 to 5 minute music videos, which
Yep.
there are many of. If you look on YouTube for Olivia Sea, I did one in a Simpsons style called "I Choo Choo Choose You," and so she's like, "Look, you're getting back into comics in a big way. Like, why don't you make this as a graphic novel?" So Conrad, over the 2 years or whatever of the pandemic, I was just working freelance. And like I'd be, laid off from the job. So I'm working freelance, I'm working at home. And any day I wasn't working on freelance, I just got up and did 140 pages of an Olivia Sea graphic novel, penciled, inked, laid out digitally,
Jesus.
and beginning to be colored. And
Yeah.
then, so then last year, I went to Canzine in Toronto
Very
last fall.
nice.
And I said, okay, I want to bring a book with me that isn't the graphic novel because I'm not done it and it's not going to be done. So I made the first issue of The Unpredictable Olivia Sea. I made a couple of zines. And from there, I met some cool people. I met Jerome, who you had on your show a few weeks ago.
Cabanatan. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. Go Jerome.
We wound up like just randomly tabling together. He saw I was wearing a cartoonist kayfabe shirt and he was like, "Hey, kayfabe." And so we're bros for life now type of thing. But yeah, it was really cool to just like get the work in front of people. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do 3 issues in black and white and do this little story arc.
Yep.
Crusherama is the story arc. And I also took the first 2 Olivia Sea EPs and made copies of a cassette tape called Crusherama. And so, yeah, as you can see on the screen there, there is Crusherama, which is the first 2 EPs and then a couple of new songs. You're quick on the draw. I like
Thank
this.
you.
So that's a very limited edition of that. There's still copies left if anyone wants to order one. If you're in Winnipeg, if you're local, I'll come bring you a copy, obviously, save you on the shipping. But so, yeah, we put that cassette out, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to look at the graphic novel, and I've got about 40 pages colored. So are there natural breaking points to break this up into a serialized story? And so that's why we have issue 1, 2, and 3 is in black and white and done fairly quickly, if I'm being honest, compared to how fast I drew the graphic novel version, which is now becoming issues 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's how we got to this place. That is the story of the graphic novel American Youth turning into 6 issues of a comic book that obviously I'll collect into a trade paperback type of thing. A graphic novel still, like I'm still, if someone wants to put it out, I'm like, I'm querying and I'm pitching and stuff. I'm pitching other graphic novel ideas that I have. I'm applying for grants, things like that. But at the end of the day, if it just gets put out, like if I just do a Kickstarter or whatever and just use it as a pre-sale, sell some copies, like I really just wanted to get these physicals out, because after hey, it's Jason.
Yeah.
So I met Jason also in Toronto.
Good
And
man.
I went to TCAF where I met you, and I did this little spring Canadian tour. I did VanCAF in Vancouver 2 weeks after
Okay.
that, and then I did Montreal. We got to talk vintage Kenner Star Wars. Yes, behind me here is my collection.
So cool.
Yeah, it's the whole run right there, save for the 2 droids action figures that cost like $2,000. Yeah, I don't have those, and I will never get those probably.
Don't say never.
Yeah, if I win the lotto, maybe someday I'll get a. But anyways, so I went to the Montreal Comic Arts Festival as well, FBDM, and then I went to Panel 1 in Calgary.
Nice.
So I did my 4 shows, and there was a Winnipeg show. It was just a punk rock flea market that kind of kicked things off before that. So yeah, and then I saw Jason again in Montreal, and we wound up having dinner on the last night of MCAF
Oh, that's so nice.
with Saul Good Sam, who I don't know. Have you ever gone to the Montreal show?
I haven't. It's one of those things where like I think I just need to get my rear end in gear, get on a train, or maybe I don't know, hop in a car with Jason or whatever, and get
Yeah.
myself down there one year.
Yeah, Jason drove, which is wild to me. But I guess it's not as far. Like Winnipeg would have been a, over 24
Yeah,
hour drive type
that's
of thing, 48 hours maybe. So, um,
something like that.
but yeah, like Montreal might have been my favorite show, if I'm being honest. It was three
Okay.
days. 3 days. They blocked off a whole street outside. We were in a tent, with various other writers and artists and publishers and things, and
Ooh.
about 80,000 people walk by over the course of 3 days. And so you're getting people that are there for comics, you're getting total randos, and it's just, I even just handing out, I didn't get you these, but I'll get you a set of these when I'm done them all. I made trading cards of some Olivia Sea characters. I'm going to do a set of 9. These are in the X-Men 92 Jim Lee style.
Oh, that's so
Um,
cool.
and I have little stats on the back for everybody as well. But these were very popular. Like in place of a business card, I made these
Yeah.
trading cards, right? Because people ask you for a business card, and you say, well, you could scan the QR code, or you can take this card, and it's actually fun. And I gave out all of them in Montreal, basically all that I brought for that show.
Great.
So, and it was everyone from like, young women to guys in their 40s who get the reference, but everyone was just like, this is cool. This is a cool project. This is a neat idea. And some people would pick up all 5 issues. Some people would pick up 1. Some people would just pick up the cassette. Like it's one of those things where you can enjoy the whole experience, or you can just enjoy it piecemeal, however you like. If you're just a comics person, if you're a music person, if you're a trading cards person, doesn't matter to me. So
That's awesome. Like one thing that when I went and I obviously I read through all the issues you've given me, so I actually at the con you mentioned it's not actually out yet, but I've got number 5.
yeah, well, yeah, four is not even technically out till next month, but I brought them all.
Ooh, well,
So
thank you. Um, one thing I did highly enjoy is when I was going through them. Let me see if I can't find it right quick. Might be too far into the book.
I am looking for feedback, by the way. So if you have, if what did you like, what did you not like? I mean, please tell me. I'm craving feedback on this stuff, because you give it to some people and they're just like, I liked it, but like, it was nice in Montreal. People would be like, oh yeah, I really like your lettering. It's just like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm around my people. Please tell me what works in this book.
Well, okay, I'm not finding a good example in issue 1, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers. But basically, for if people listening haven't pieced it together yet, Olivia Sea, as pictured here, is a part of a band, or a couple bands over the series. But there's a lot of music in it, and there's a lot of panels that you set up where Olivia gets together with her band, and she's playing guitar, and she'll sing, and you'll have little lyrics come up.
Mm-hmm.
One thing for me, my brain goes, just because I grew up on rock music, my brain automatically tried to put that into like a rock cadence. Like, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Take the lyrics and force it into like a classic. Thank you. Yes, right there.
Yep.
And my brain wanted to shove that into a rock thing. And I think the coolest bit of that was I actually went on to oliviac.net, and I followed the links there to the Bandcamp site, and I would track down whenever I could. I'd track down the actual songs, and I'd be like, okay, what does this actually sound like? Like, what's this thing that they've created?
Wow.
And that's why, like, on the YouTube channel for it, and let me bring it up here. You'll see, like, I've listened to a few of them here, because I wanted to go through and like get the correct details.
Right.
And there's obviously something to be said for like, we all have our own interpretation of the material, and then it's once you've put it out into the world, you don't own it anymore. It's the reader who owns it, and blah.
Yep.
But like, no, you have the thing. So I tracked it down. and I thought that was cool because I'd never, not never, very rarely do you see that, and it was something that I appreciated because music and comics are very different mediums. They can both use to tell stories, but they're not
Yeah.
necessarily best friends.
Hmm.
And you've done a great job of sort of button them up together.
Oh, thank you.
Um, yeah, it was cool. So again, folks out there, uh, go to oliviac.net, as seen down below, order the 3-pack of Crusher-Rama. Go ahead and hit up YouTube once you get it, or hit up YouTube now. Look up Olivia Sea and just watch stuff because they're really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm not making as many animated videos now that the book is consuming most of the time, and that so how I'm doing it is like each comic is released quarterly, and each one gets a new single that comes with it. And
So
then
cool.
on the Bandcamp, I'm actually doing like it's like an issue playlist basically. So like any songs that are in the issue are on the Bandcamp proper. So like there's a issue 2. Olivia plays a show with a few other bands, and how that came about was I was drawing the issue and I said, who wants to do a remix or a cover or something here? And whoever got in touch, they wound up going into the comic to play the show. So the famous Sandhogs, Patrick Michelle Shishin, who I always butcher his name, and and my buddy Seamus, who goes by Spinal Fluid. So 2 remixes and a cover, and then they're all in the issue, which is pretty neat. And the single was Silent Reading for that one. But yeah, it's a whole thing. So I'm very impressed and very down that you actually like went and did the work and experienced the whole thing, as you know, listening to the song that's actually on the page. And but yeah, the only time I've ever like I remember when the Scott Pilgrim books came out and someone on MySpace was covering Launchpad McQuack. You know, they're like, this is how I think the song goes. And but yeah, like so I mean, I would love it if people were like just reading the book and then like covering an Olivia Sea song or something like that, like pull out the acoustic guitar or whatever it is and
Yeah.
take a stab at it. That'd be amazing.
Hmm. We'll see. Uh, well, one thing I did want to ask, because there's so much to this,
Mhm.
when it comes to the different music videos, the just straight up the different songs, and of course the currently the 3 books that people can get, soon to be number 4, and then
Yes.
later on 5, and as you've mentioned, more later on, which is exciting.
Mhm.
Um, how would you recommend someone approach this series?
Yeah. So when people were coming by my table at any of those shows, they would say, okay, well, which one's issue 1? And I'd say, well, this is issue 1. You can start here. 1, 2, and 3 are kind of their own little story. I try to make every issue like that old, the Jim Shooter rule of like every issue is somebody's first issue type
Mm,
of thing. So I
yeah,
try to give like the little, like, I think that the way it's broken down in the first 3 issues is like Olivia's girlfriend Sadie is the narrator of the first issue. And then
yeah.
I feel like I don't know if anyone narrates the second or if it's Olivia. And then the 3rd issue is Kitty Raygun, who is part of the Crusherama dance troupe that becomes a vigilante group. So yeah, you can start with the 3 black and white issues, but issue 4, which comes out in July, that starts a new story, which is the American Youth story. Yes. As displayed by Conrad and I. Yes, yes, yes. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yes. Yeah, I'm super happy with like some people were being like, oh, that's a Love and Rockets homage. I was like, yes, it is. Please purchase it. But yeah, this one's like it's beautiful, full color. And I do that like Adrian Tomina style of like, you know, very flat colors, very like Tintin,
Mhm.
Hergé style, you know, like
I
there's
appreciated the reference to Tintin, by the way,
mm,
the run with the big spotlight.
yes, yeah, I love that image. Yeah, I'm a big Tintin nerd. I was actually born the day that Hergé died. So I'm not saying he was reincarnated into me. That would be
But we're not
arrogant.
not saying it.
I'm not ruling it out. If I did believe in that. But anyways, yeah. So it's just kind of like I do pencil and ink, and then I color digitally. I really like the feel of, you know, I'm 40. I'm not going to learn digital tools. Although this cover, this cover was done digitally, like literally with a mouse. So that's
No.
yeah. I did this one with a mouse. So
You and Jerome, did you get that idea from him? Because I've seen him do
yeah,
some stuff with, and he's like, yeah, I did this totally on a mouse pad on a laptop, and I'm like,
yeah, like using
no,
his finger, like
yeah,
so yeah, but it's trying different things and being like, oh, this works and this doesn't. But yeah, I still, there's nothing more relaxing to me than sitting down at the drawing table, turning the light on and getting, a big sheet out and doing some pencils and getting frustrated and erasing. Yeah.
good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that you're so passionate about it. Like one thing I highly enjoyed is at the end of each book you have a, or not, maybe it's the beginning. Is it the beginning? It's the beginning, isn't it? Where did you? Okay, the blurb that you start putting in here about, thank you for basically like indulging me. When did you start putting that in here?
I started putting that onto records that I made actually in the various bands that I've been in, like just thank you for indulging me.
Yeah, like I love that because there's a level of humility to that where um this is very clearly a passion project. You're loving doing it, which I'm glad to hear. It comes through because there's so much personality to this book. Like I have a couple of things where I can give you some criticism that I think makes it feel at some point in time, like odd times, a little disjointed, but like
Oh, probably, yeah.
again, it comes into a point where like it fits though, and it feels right. So I don't know if it's just intentional, um, but like, yeah, what I dug most in when I cracked open the first one, this page actually, I really liked it, and it set
Thank
a
you.
tone for the whole series for me that was very like relaxed, um, comfortable, but also there was something about it, like I guess needy would be the word. There's like a,
Mm.
I want to understand, I want to have, I want to be comfortable. And then later on when the song comes out where the lyric is everything I don't want to do involves you. That's not,
Yeah,
I'm not
don't want
saying
to
that
leave you, don't want to love you. All the things I don't want to do, they all involve you.
yeah, and something like struck a chord, and it was like, wow. It was really powerful, and that sort of resonates through the whole series, or the five that I've read. I'll say um, that just speak to Olivia's weird character. Her like I put it, I think she's intelligent. She's highly driven. She just doesn't have a target. So she's
Yeah.
just going and she's trying and she wants to do things and figure stuff out, and but she's not like aimed anywhere. She's just going.
Yeah, she's along for the ride, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess you know what? We've shown her picture a couple times. She's looking fabulous on your covers, striking poses, being in love triangles. Um, who is Olivia Sea? When people pick this book up and they read it, who is Olivia Sea?
I would say she's at times my proxy. Um she is a combination of, little bits of my wife, little bits of my sister, little bits of friends, like the story, there's a the storyline about, her friend Casey moved away to the
Mhm.
States. That's very much, when I was 15, my best friend Andre moved away to the
Oh,
States. And
I'm sorry.
so yeah, hey, he's a doctor in Las Vegas now and he's dating America's Next Top Model winners, so he's doing all right. But um but yeah, so it's like, it's just kind of like little bits of my, it's not quite autobio, but it is the type of autobio that I'm comfortable with. And it also allows me to, I going back to like my student film days, where I was friends with all of these very, very talented actresses, and they would all say to me like, no one is writing smart parts for women, it's always the girlfriend or the waitress or whatever, right? And so I was just, it was like right then and there I was like, well, I am going to write, women characters that, might be interesting. They're interesting to me, they're interesting to
Mhm.
other people, like it was very like, I got very into the show Veronica Mars when it was on, and that kind of like set the tone of like, Veronica is witty and smart, and very cool, but also like isn't always right. Like she thinks she's always right, but she's kind of unlikable sometimes too. And when my wife first read through these first 5 issues, she was just like, yeah, I kind of don't like her, but I like her, but I don't, you know, like it's a good character, and it challenges how it's, I wanted her to be likable, but maybe you don't always root for her. I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
just it was one of those things where it's like I I firmly believe that whether it's a movie or a show or a comic or a book or whatever, you have to like the character. You have to have a reason to like the character.
Hmm.
And in the first 5 minutes, I'll turn off a movie if I don't like the character. Like it might be, the story is the thing, but you think about your procedurals, like X-Files is a good example. Like they get put into Monster of the Week, they get put into big story arcs, but it's all about, do we like Mulder and Scully? So
Hmm.
do we like Olivia? Do we like Four Track the robot? Do we like Sadie, her girlfriend that Olivia clearly, is about to break up with and is just kind of like going through the motions? Um, so there's all these parts to it, but I think that because she puts her heart on her sleeve, like she'll show you what she's feeling, and she's very honest, and I hope that people get behind that aspect of the character, and that like she's like honest to a fault maybe.
Hmm.
And like it's also like I suffer from anxiety and stuff like that, like pretty severely, man. Like I used to have these panic attacks where I'd like pass out and I wouldn't be able to
Oh,
stand up for 8 hours. My head felt
yeah.
like it was 1,000 pounds type of thing. So I wanted to include like, whether it's stage fright or like just various, like there's a character in there called Anxious Abby, but her anxiety is her superpower. And she's kind of the
Yeah.
only one with a superpower in the whole show. Like everyone else is very much like a Batman or a Daredevil, like street level
Yeah.
vigilante type. But Anxious Abby can like shoot like a rocket through somebody. So it's there's that. But I wanted it to be grounded in reality,
Hmm.
but also have kind of fantastical elements to it. So like as the story progresses, they will go and play a battle of the bands on Mars.
Yeah, I'm again, because I have access to things that are not yet available. I ran into that and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Uh, One thing I did want to ask, and we Jason in the comments has asked a question, so I will get to that very soon. But I wanted to ask, for me, Olivia Sea. I don't think it's ever explicitly stated, or if it is, I totally glossed over it. But I picture her being like 25 to 28 years old. Would you say that's about right?
Yeah, so this story takes place 2013, 2014. Olivia's born in 1990, so yep, she's 23, 24 in
Okay.
these sets of stories. So I use the Coen brothers rule of you never set something in the vague present. You always set it in a certain
Oh.
place and time. And so like once I decided what her birth year was and what the time frame could be then, and I was like, okay, yep, that lines up. Okay, so now we can tell these type of stories. So we can do old Olivia Sea, we can do kid Olivia Sea as like a peanut style strip or something. We could do anything with it. But now that I have this timeline, and I like when characters age and change,
Yeah.
like in Love and Rockets, like the characters are older now and stuff. So yeah.
Agreed. No, it's definitely cool to have that grounded timeline, basically, like you said, like not like a vague, like Batman's like 35-ish, even
Yeah.
though, first issue came out in the 30s, but
Yeah.
whatever.
They call it a
Um
floating timeline, right?
yeah, like it's just this Mobius existence.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, because like, yeah, I always, when I first started reading Olivia, they came off very wishy-washy, sort of, like I said, driven and like intelligent in what they were doing, but without a sense of direction. So they felt like they were just kind of, oh, I'm gonna to go do this now. Oh, I want to go do this now. Um, but then like they started showing some more confidence and things like that, like an older person might. That's
Mhm.
why I sort of, yeah, 20, 24, 25 is perfect.
It's that
Um,
university age where like You're a little shy still. You're kind of growing into yourself. I always feel like those are the years that you really figure out who you are as a person.
Yeah,
So it's one of those, like, Olivia's at this crossroads with this girlfriend and with her music career. And so yeah, it is kind of do we make the big move? Do we leave town type of thing, and try to make it?
absolutely. Like I said, Jason had a question for you.
Sure.
So Jason says, when there's a break, here you go, Jason. Um, Back at the action figures, because he's watching this on a phone, so it's hard to see. He wants to know if those are 3.75-inch Marvel Legends over your shoulder. I'm
Yes.
assuming
Those are the
yes.
yes, those are the new the line was recently put on pause, unfortunately,
Oh,
but yeah, those are 3.75, like designed to look like they came out in the 80s, like they have Kenner logos on the packaging and everything.
that's so cool.
Yeah, like one of my favorite toy lines for sure. And that's the whole set of them right there. Right up
Dig
to
it.
the Ghost Rider, I think, is the last guy they put out, but yeah, it's a sweet set.
Very cool. Um, I mean, normally I would save this kind of stuff for later, but yeah, just looking behind you, there is so much cool stuff. I most recognizably see like all the Star Wars stuff. The fact that Jason just like sniper spied the Marvel Legends figure. Oh my god, it just keeps going. Um, what's up with that? Like, I don't know. I don't know where to start, what to ask, but like, um, yeah. When did this collection of yours start? Why did you choose to display it like this? Why aren't you like, it's gotta be in its packaging or it's
Well, there's
valueless?
there's some there's some packaging
Yeah,
guys
a
up
little bit.
there. But so I was born in 1983, and so when I was little, we had the Droids and the Ewoks cartoons, and that was my first exposure to Star Wars. I used to literally go to those dome garbage cans and think that they were R2D2, and like,
Oh, cool.
yeah, so I was very into that, and I saw like Ewoks on ice type of thing. And then one time on a family trip, I saw Return of the Jedi, and I was like,
Nice.
they're real? Like, they're not just a cartoon? Like, droids and Ewoks are real. Oh my God. And because this was, 1990 or so, and there was no Star Wars toys on the shelves anymore. Like, you might find it at like an old K&B Toys or something, like,
Yeah.
just like overstock type of thing, unpopular. But my mom and my grandma and my grandpa started taking me to yard sales, and people were selling this stuff for 5 cents a figure. And so I would drive around Winnipeg every Saturday morning with my mom or my grandma and grandpa, and we would go Star Wars hunting. And
Oh,
like, there's nothing more exciting than like finding an AT-AT walker for $1 underneath a
oh,
table, or like a Ewok playset, or all this different stuff. And then I sat on it for years. And then when my parents sold their house, eventually, like, I had my own home at that point, and they said, "Yeah, you got to take all this stuff."
oh,
And
yeah.
so I didn't have time to go through it all. I brought it all over to my house, and I this room here was, when we first moved in, it was the jam space.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah.
then the last of the bands broke up. I was maybe 5 bands or so in my music career type of thing. And so then it became the storage room for the stuff. And then one day my wife Jen and I, we were watching The Toys That Made Us, and she was like, you could do a room like that in the basement. And I was like, I can. And so then it became the project, right? Like, so I mean, I literally, I took out a closet to put my drawing table in there.
Oh, okay.
um
Yeah, yeah.
so it's like, it gives you a few extra feet in there. But yeah, it's basically like mostly childhood. Like, I would have duplicates, right? Because you'd go to a garage sale and you'd buy a Yoda, and then you go to another garage sale and you'd find the Yoda with the cane, and
Yep.
then you go to another yard sale and find the Yoda with the snake. And so now you have 3 4 Yodas. So some of them I have, like, like I have the Hoth place set there, so
Hmm.
I've got a few people on display. I have a bunch of the stormtroopers type of thing, but I sold a lot of stuff too. um just for, I got no room. And then it
Yep.
was like, okay, now I'm like fully back into collecting action figures, and so I got like a whole shelf of Star Wars Black Series. I've got um the Mandalorian ship there, the Razor
Nice.
Crest, which was a HasLab thing, and my little Mandalorian shelf with all those figures. But then I've also got like a little GI Joe display, Ninja Turtle display. I'm a big TMNT guy.
Very cool.
So yeah, a lot of childhood stuff, a lot of newer stuff. And then there's also Conrad, like there's other stuff that's just like in the furnace room that's in boxes that like some stuff I've sold, but other stuff I'm like, I can't sell it. I love it, but it's not on
Yeah.
display. So what am I going to do with it? I don't know. It sits in the furnace room for the rest of my life.
D- um, so again, your collection very clearly is a lot different and large. I think larger than mine anyway. I currently, I believe my last tally, I'm sitting around 2,100 comics.
Okay.
But what I like to do is every so often I'll go through, and for all of these, obviously not my CGCs, but these are all like special wall displays. Which way is the camera gonna go? That way. And I can easily pop those out, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
a chunk of them I'm saving for people who have been on my show or local artists that I really like. Other ones like Coda right here. It's just a comic I really like.
Yeah.
But what I try and do when I remember have the time because I'm not doing this or editing or whatever, I like to swap them out. So do you think you'll ever go, okay, cool, I can put this series of characters safely in a box, open the other box? Will you try and swap them out, or is it just too much work? Because I
There's a
appreciate.
couple there's a couple shelves, like there's one with Thundercats on it that
Oh, cool.
when
Okay.
I first started, I had my Dick Tracy Playmates figures there, and then I swapped them out for the Thundercats. And then there's like, and also like you buy new stuff, so then you got to move stuff around and buy more shelving. And so it's like, okay, like where are these I got like all my like DC comics and Marvel guys and the Tick and Ninja
Oh,
Turtles are all like on the comic shelf there. Um, and it's like all these new McFarlane figures and stuff like that, and then like a bunch of Secret Wars Marvel guys and the Toy Biz guys from the 90s, and just like, so there's all those. But then I've got like the whole set of the Reservoir Dogs 12-inch figures that came out like
wow.
22 years ago or whatever, like, but they're in a box, they're not on display. So yeah. But yeah,
I
and then
love it.
in the other room, then it's the comic collection, the CD wall, the record wall, some cassette tapes, all the books. We have built-in bookshelves in our fireplace. Like
Oh,
it's
that's
just,
sick.
yeah. So we've got a lot of stuff.
I like stuff. Stuff is good. To those people that say, don't let your stuff own you, you got to enjoy the world you live in at least, right?
I like I like the act of going hunting for things. I like flipping
Yeah.
through boxes. I like doing that alone. I like doing that with people and finding stuff with them, or I find, oh, you should check this out, or they find like, hey, are you looking for this Dinosaur Junior record or whatever? Like, it's a fun activity. And then you build shelves to put the things into, and then but with at least with comics, like for the most part, like I'm not breaking the bank on any issues. Like, I
Hmm.
went to the flea market the other day and bought 40 books for $30, and
Beauty.
I found some good stuff, some fun stuff, some stuff I needed. Like, and it's, yeah, like it's just, it's also like, number one, I'm going to read them. Number two, it's research, right?
Yep.
And number three, they're not as consuming of space because they're such thin little things. So yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, the hunt is definitely it's something that I think all of us collectors enjoy, no matter what you're collecting. I just think it's more prevalent maybe in comics because they're
Yeah.
cheaper. At least I think they are. But yes, so Nick, to get back to Olivia Sea,
Yeah.
that's why we're here. That's the important
Sure.
bit.
Yeah.
We've got about 12 minutes left in the show,
Yep.
and we've kind of gotten the end bits out of the way, interestingly. But anyway, about your book.
Mhm.
So an important question I normally like to ask within the first 20 minutes is, how do people get it? We've kind of showed that off, um, but I definitely wanted to just directly address it anyway.
Mhm.
So what's the
So
best way?
yeah, I mean, like, to directly purchase online is the nicholastronaut.bigcartel
Uh-huh.
.com. that seemed to be the easiest and freest web platform to sell things on. You can put up 5 things for free, and so I just kind of rotate them in and
Oh.
out of there. Yeah, and you get all the money, and it's all good. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's the Big Cartel page there. You have my book of short stories on there as well, which I have a few copies of still. Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
I mean, it,
um,
it feels like it fits.
yeah, it's all it's all designed to all, like, all my stuff kind of goes together. So with that blue and that girls wearing headphones and stuff like that. So yeah, you can go to oliviasea.net, and that's all linked to everything. You can go to my website, nicholastronaut.wordpress.com. You can follow me at nicholastronaut on Instagram. I don't really TikTok, but I have an account. I
Oh, you
just
do?
start
Okay.
Yeah, I just started a YouTube account proper for comic stuff. That's Nickel Astronaut, and I put little videos of each of the stops on my tour there, as well as some haul videos. And I'm doing like 1 or 2 videos a week on there. Not getting a lot of views yet, but it's a brand new channel, just a few weeks old. So you can check that out. Please subscribe to that YouTube channel.
Spell it for
And
me real quick, will you?
NichoLastronaut for Nickel Astronaut.
I like
Um,
that.
yeah, which I don't remember when I came. I think there's a band called Brastronaut that I think they still exist. Ado Van Bremen is the front man of that band. Yeah, there's my YouTube channel. So yeah, I've got my vlog for Panel One and for Montreal and VanCaf and TCAF and all that stuff there. Um,
Yeah.
so that's fun to. I really like to document things. Like with the Olivia Sea project, I throw up a bunch of cameras during our recording sessions as well, and so I'm always documenting stuff. Um, and then I just started putting out stuff on Webtoon. So you can
Ah.
actually check out every Tuesday. If you look up Nickel Astronaut on Webtoon, you're going to be getting a slice of the new issues of Olivia Sea. Diving right into the color issues on there. So you'll get and Webtoon is neat because you can just scroll through it on your phone, right? So, and it's free to use. And, why limit my audience? If there is a free platform out there where people can access the stuff, and then if they want to buy the physical copy, they can, or if they just want to buy the physical copy and not look at Webtoon, that's fine too. But yeah, I literally just put up the first part last week, and so there'll be little parts of the American youth story going up on Webtoon
That's so
uh,
cool.
for the foreseeable future. So you can you can get ahead of the book releases there if you like. You can get a little taste. You can find us on you put in Olivia Sea into Spotify or Apple Music or whatever your streaming preference is. You can find music from Olivia Sea. You can find videos from Olivia Sea. Um, there's a lot of stuff. I try to cover all the bases,
Yeah.
Conrad. So
Yeah, you've put out so much stuff. Like I think that's what shocked me. Because I am very, very familiar with, comic creator does day job, comic
yep.
creator then writes. Normally, comic creator then has friend who draws or finds person, whereas you're just doing the whole package. Uh, but then you turn around and you're like, oh, by the way, I've written multiple songs for the
Yeah.
book. By the way, I've animated a few things.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. That's why, like I said earlier, I definitely wanted to ask, where do you recommend people start? Um, because
Yeah,
it's
I
just,
mean,
yeah.
start with issue one if you like. That's obviously easy. I mean, you can start with Webtoons and start the American Youth Story proper, or just Google me and find all the terrible journalism that I've written, or old student films and things like that too. I'm sure they're out there, maybe on an old YouTube channel or something. So yeah, it's I make a lot of stuff. I'm trying to like slow down and do the quality over quantity
Mm,
thing with this. Like, so the first 3 issues were a little quick, but these pages that that are the color issues, issue 4 coming out next month, like that's like my heart and soul, that I've put like so many drafts of writing, so many drafts of the drawings. Like it
Mhm.
really, it is some of the best work that I've ever done. It's some of the proudest I am of anything that I've done. So if you want to check that out, that would be lovely. Um, yeah.
No, yeah, that's 4 next month.
Yes, next month.
Okay, the one thing I do want to ask, and you can just say no if it's too much spoiler, because I don't want to, spoil stuff for people.
Mm.
But as you've mentioned, uh, issue 4 is color.
Yes.
Um, in this issue, Olivia, well, figuring herself out, runs into a little blonde boy, and as per some of her lyrics, um, he sort of reminiscently says, "I see color."
Mm.
Um, I wanted to ask because I thought it was really interesting. Is the fact that that happens in the issue where you're introducing color into the series intentional? Is it just a really nice coincidence? Um, because I find your Olivia Sea is deceptively deep. Like it could be considered a very poppy, like a pop fiction or pulp fiction, just sort of fun story about some, Gem and the Hologram style old school action with a little more grunge to it. But as I sort of read it, it felt deeper, and I started like having really interesting thoughts while I'm going through it. So yeah, is that coincidental or was that all planned out?
Yeah, I mean, like we get a little deeper as the story goes. We deal with Svengali figures and men that use women in the music industry and stuff like that. So it does get a little heavy in future issues, because if you have to talk about things, if you have a platform, let's talk about some stuff. But no, it's a
Yeah.
total coincidence that that there is that line about you see color, because yeah, it comes from the original, the song uh, called Olivia Sea by my old band Future Kids. The chorus was, "You see color but you don't see me," and it was
Yeah.
really just a way to, like, that lyric to me, it means like, you know when someone says like, "Oh, they're looking right through me," it's like, yeah, they see everything, they see color, but they don't even see me, right? Like it's a real like sad sack type of thing.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just like kind of this weird little kid. And actually, like years ago, the line, like she goes to this lemonade stand, there's this little blonde boy in overalls, and she says, I'll get a cup. And he goes, "I know the price is a little steep, but it's a big cup." And that was literally, a friend of mine told me that a little kid said that to him at a lemonade stand probably 10, 15 years ago. He tells me this, but I kept that line in my back pocket, in the back of my head. I said, I like that line. And so
Yeah.
the lemonade boy was just going to be that. But as the story progresses, there is more lemonade boy, Conrad. So don't worry. You haven't seen the last
I'm
of the
excited
lemonade
for it.
boy. He is a main character in this story. So and you can read into him what you will. But that's what I like too. I like to throw out stuff that maybe it means something to me. Maybe it is totally abstract. Whether it's from that David Lynch school of like, this means something. This is open to interpretation. I will never say what it means, but you can figure it out type of thing. Like sometimes I'll say what something means, but sometimes I'll make something up too. So, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, like that's one thing that really impressed me. Like I said, like the first arc, right? It's very high energy. Like I said, pulp fiction, kind of just a little wacky. Definitely,
Mhm.
like it fits well in a comic. Um, but like yeah, at the end of the third issue, or as that third issue sort of runs itself down, and then reading the fourth and fifth ones, it was just like, okay, all right, Nick, you're getting into some stuff here. I can feel it coming. You're starting to elaborate some ideas mentally, but you do it in such like a damn smooth way.
Oh, thank you.
That I appreciated it because it was good. Like you slipped it in the idea there. It was just like, oh, now I'm thinking. Now I'm enjoying. Um, I guess if you're curious, my one criticism I had for you,
Please.
um, in the first, I think the first 2 issues had it worse. I think by the 3rd one, you'd ironed it out. But there were times where I'd be reading and, um, the scene would just suddenly jump, right? We'd be doing something, talking, and then it would
Mm.
be next scene. Um, again, I because it works, because of the nature of Olivia Sea and how
Yeah.
unpredictable it is, how wild it is. It works. It's so it was one of those things where I'm like, is this actually a bad thing? Was it intentional?
It
So
might have been laziness on my part. It might have just been like, that's like I'm telling enough story here. Like maybe a lot of the time I find like you'll write something out and you lay it out as like 2 pages, and then you're like, well, I don't need to draw all of that, right? Like
yeah,
maybe I just trim it down. Maybe it is blah blah blah. But like I try to keep each scene like on a page turn type of thing. So I'm not gonna like change scenes in the middle of a page or anything. But like, yeah, there's definitely a few times where it's like, yeah, maybe I rushed that in those first 3 issues. But yeah, I feel like it was just because I was like, I'm basically just making these to tell like this kind of little fun story. And it is like, you're right. Like, I just feel like it's kind of the vibe. Like it's very like, ba-bum, 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 like really quick, and kind of silly. And they're very aware that they're in a comic book,
I
I think.
loved that,
So
by the way. That kind of stuff was good. Like when I forget which issue it is now, but I think it's the first one. Was a very clear narrator, and then I believe because Olivia doesn't narrate the first one, I think.
no.
But then Olivia at some point does turn. No, it's not Olivia. It's someone else. It's one
Oh
of the
yeah,
other
there's a
girls.
scene where like Kitty Raygun is talking to the audience,
Yes.
and then Little Trouble Girl pops in and is like, "Oh, hey, thanks for the compliment." And she's like, "Oh, hey, I didn't know you could talk to the audience." And that's very like there's this film by Godard called Pierre Le Fou, and at one point Jean-Paul Belmondo and Anna Karina are riding in a convertible, and he's talking to the audience. And she turns around and looks at the camera, and she's like, "Oh, hello." And he's like, "No, no, no, don't talk to the audience. The audience doesn't care what you have to say," type of thing. And that's always stuck with me. It's always like, yeah, like if one person breaks the fourth wall, but what happens when a second person breaks the fourth wall? And do they acknowledge that each of them are breaking the fourth wall? And how do they do that? So maybe that's a little nod to that there. But yeah.
Maybe it honestly, like, not being as well bred in film and television as yourself, clearly, it reminded me of Fleabag, actually.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Um, Good series.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Phoebe
but
Waller-Bridge, genius.
yeah, but Nick, we have hit our hour. We're actually a
Yes.
little bit over, but oh no. So last two questions that I find are important. So for the folks that are tuned in, one, where can they follow you? Where's the best place where you're active? Where can they check out your books?
Mostly I'm updating on Instagram. It's the platform I like the most, and I'm at Nickel Astronaut on Instagram and every other social media platform. I've kept it very consistent.
Thank you.
Um, you can find my books at nicelastronaut.bigcartel.com. Two more quick plugs. I produce a podcast about Winnipeg history called
Ooh.
One Great History that is hosted by Sabrina Janke and Alex Judge, who are two very hilarious and knowledgeable historians. So it's not a dry listen at all. It's a super fun podcast. We've won some awards for that one. It's called One Great History. And yeah, there it is. That's Alex and Sabrina right there. And yeah, we're doing a series. It's Winnipeg's 150th birthday coming up this year, so
Oh,
we're doing a mini
cool.
series this year leading up to that. And then maybe some other people out there backed the lesser known comics punk rock comics anthology with Apollo City. I did the cover on that, and I have a
Oh, cool.
short story in there with Brandon Blocksdorf. He wrote, I drew. And yeah, probably some other stuff, but those are the two big cool things that come to mind that I could plug outside of my book, The Unpredictable Olivia Sea, the new issue of which is online and on Winnipeg store shelves coming next month, alongside the single Minister of Loneliness will be the new single that comes out and is featured in the book. So
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. My very last question then is simply, who do you think I should interview next?
you know what? I had a blast with all these people that I met in all these different shows in Toronto and Vancouver and Calgary and Montreal. But I would say the most interesting person that I met is Saul Good Sam. and he could tell a lot of stories. I don't know if you've ever met him or talked to him, but he is a guy he's worked in Marvel and DC and IDW and animation, and his mom was the director of the Care Bears movie, and so he's just got a lifetime of stories to tell. And just a very genuine and sweet guy as well. He helped launch Sequential Magazine. I believe he founded that. So yeah, just a super interesting guy. He went out to dinner with me and Jason, and yeah, so that's who I would say to get on the show, because you will have a fun time talking to him.
All right, then I will definitely have to do that, because he's actually been on my radar for a long time. I've just never actually interacted with the guy. There you go. That'll be it. That's the next one I'm reaching out to. Then thank you, Nick. And absolutely, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show tonight, talk to us about Olivia Sea and other nerdy things such as Star Wars and figures. Yeah, it was an absolute joy. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on, man. And I really appreciate you actually taking the time to read the books and come up with some very thoughtful questions. It's always a lovely thing to actually, have a real conversation with somebody, not just about the work, but just like, we're basically strangers. We met once in Toronto.
Yeah.
So very, very cool getting to hang out with you, man. This is awesome.
Awesome. Well, it's one of the best things I do. I think it's the funnest thing I do. So yeah, thanks so much. And for the folks out there in YouTube land, if you're watching this live, if you're watching this afterwards sometime in the stream, whatever it is, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you thought of Nick. If you've picked up his book or read it on Webtoons, let me know what you thought of Olivia Sea. And we will see you next time. And this